Please welcome to the stage, Lawrence Endersen.
Thank you. It's Christmas evening. My granny answers the door, and on the doorstep is my dad and this pretty girl in a long red dress, white cardigan, wavy blonde hair. And my granny has no idea who this girl is, because this girl is me. It's my dad's idea. I'm wearing a wig. He's big into practical jokes, and I'm happy to go along. And we're pretending that I'm my long-lost cousin from England. And he's doing most of the talking because he said I'm very shy, and of course that's my cover. But I'd be no trouble at all because I'm so shy. And we've like one job to do between the two of us, and that's to keep our composure as like Da ups the ante. So I won't be staying for that long, like a month, 2 tops, and it's definitely not more than 6. I've no money. My parents abandoned me, and maybe the brother will come. So Granny's frantically going to make some tea at this stage, and I see she sneaks a whiskey into her own cup. And she's very polite, but we can feel the tension. And she gets me a glass of lemonade, and she hands me the glass of lemonade. And it's kind of the first time she looks at me, and she goes like, "Oh, I can see the resemblance to your cousin Lar." And I mean, at this stage, Dan and I crack up, like our cover's blown, we're busted. So that's pretty typical of the relationship I had with Dad growing up. A lot of fun, a lot of laughs, a lot of jokes. Today, I've a son of my own, and that spirit of fun and excitement continues, but without the wigs and the dresses. The boy has some standards. It's just typical father-son fun stuff. So when we go to the beach, I have this bodyboard, and we'd be down in Wexford, and I tied a bodyboard around my waist, and in the shallow water, I'd be like running up and down, and he's on the board, and we're going back and forth and back and forth. And like after a good many goes of this, he's singing "Surfing USA," and I'm singing nothing because I'm totally exhausted, I'm breathless. And we only know that it's time to stop when I collapse like on the ground of complete exhaustion, and we sit there, and at the end of the day, he's asked, how was your day, what we were doing, and he was like, I'm surfing the waves, and like he's Keanu Reeves in Point Break or something like that. So I have a lot of fond memories of that sort of fun and laughter, but it hasn't always been fun and laughter. In 2011, a few things came together, which perhaps any one of them on their own would have been fine, but together, not quite. I was having money problems, work problems, and someone was trying to sue me. Now, the work problems were probably the hardest, because over the course of my life, I got a lot of, enjoyment and even validation from my work. On Sunday nights, I was having trouble sleeping when I think about work the next day, and that sort of sleep deprivation gradually started creeping into the other nights. And eventually, I wasn't even sleeping on a Friday, which kind of had been my last refuge. And it's a shocker. I had never had a breakdown. I had never been depressed. But I guess everybody has some limits, and I'd found mine, or they found me. One Monday, I just couldn't get out of bed, and I eventually had to give up my work. Weeks, months pass by where I'm just a shadow. We lived in Shankill near the sea. I had a kayak, and I thought, well, maybe if I went out in that and didn't make it back, the life insurance would be paid off. But it would have to be an accident or look like an accident. So make some plans. There could be no note. And round about like the depth of those dark times, I remember one particular morning, I'm in the kitchen, it's just me and my son, he's having his breakfast, he's doing some homework. And he looked up at me and he asked me a question. Dad, how come I never hear you laugh out loud? And I froze and looked at his face, almost like I'd seen it for the first time. Dad, how come I never hear you laugh out loud? And never, like that word never seemed harsh, but it had been months since I'd even smiled, let alone laughed. And that's when I realized that I had become a stranger to my son, and a stranger to myself, and something had to change. So I went to my GP, and he recommended cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. And the last thing I wanted to do was to be going in front of another stranger, but I didn't really feel like I had a choice. So I looked online, I found a place in town, and my first appointment was for a Monday night in a wet December evening, 7 p.m., and I go into this room, and it's me and the therapist, and there's a small round table between us, and the room is nice and warm. It's a bit of a refuge from the winter outside, but two things bother me. First, on the table, there's this massive box of tissues. And I'm thinking that's an invitation that I'm not interested in. And for some reason, I don't know why, I said, is it okay if I move these? And I kind of just put them under the table, and she kind of gave me a non-judgmental, if not somewhat quizzical nod. But the second thing was, like, she's 20 years younger than me, and I'm thinking, how could she know anything? I'm here, so let's just do the hour. The rest of the session went quickly enough, and at the end we agreed we'd do 6 more. And about 3 sessions in, I'm beginning to think, well, maybe she does know something. She had recommended a particular book that the gist of which was I had put my entire identity into my work. And when my work fell apart, so did I. So we started working on some other things, typical normal things, friends, hobbies, families, and even the prospect of a change of work. At the end of the 5th week, she said something I wasn't expecting. I think you're okay, I don't need to see you again. But I'm not quite sure I believed her. Now, it had been a while since I'd reached for the tissues, but she sort of unceremoniously sent me back out onto the streets to fend for myself. And it was only a few weeks later that I realized she was right. And how did I know? Well, I found myself laughing again, and the memories were back, and I could think about the fun times with my gran and playing on the beach with my son. So what have I learned from all of this? To never underestimate the power of strangers or our own risk of becoming one, and that one laugh is worth more than 2 tablets. You know what to do this Christmas. Thank you very much.
Lawrence Endersen, everybody!